Hello, empowered principals. This is it, day 5 of Released, where we are stepping full in to our empowerment. We're leveraging all that we've learned, the emotional pain, the grief, the anger, the loss, the resentment, the frustration, feeling all of that, processing it all, gleaning information, wisdom, and knowledge from it, exploring why we feel the way we do, expanding our desire, our capacity to handle hard moments, hard situations, painful chapters, painful experiences. And now we're going to walk through the actual release, what it feels like to move towards the actual release, the release of this experience. We've gained everything we can, and we're releasing the rest. So, through all of the grieving and the feeling and the processing and the exploration and the expansion, we're coming to a moment where it's time to truly release it. And if you are here live on this call, I just want to really honor you and commend you because the first 4 phases, the 4 sessions that we have covered, they're very difficult. It's hard to want to come back after day 1 when we're talking about the shock of it all, the pain of it all, and then to come back for day 2 and to lean in deeper to the pain, the anger, the grief, and then to explore, to take ownership. That feels very challenging. It's very hard mentally and emotionally. And then we get into the expansion and the release. So if you have made it all 5 days, I highly commend you. This is, I think, some of the most challenging work that we do as humans. We were gifted with the experience of having emotion. As humans, we have, refined brains. We have prefrontal cortexes that can think and create all of these memories and all of these thoughts and all this creation. Like, it's such a gift to be a human on the planet. And it comes with the hardships. It comes with we are hardwired with the tools. So we've been given the tools that we need to be able to process the pain, the grief, the loss, the setbacks, the release, getting fired, getting released, being, reassigned. But we have the tools. And we're not really talking about those tools. We don't talk about them in school, right? We kind of talk about resilience. We talk about constraint. We talk about regulation, but we're not teaching the how, and we're not walking people through the how. So it's no wonder that teachers become exhausted by the end of the year because they've been holding energetic space, emotional space for, 20, 30 kids at the elementary level and, multiple kids, multiple sets of 30 kids coming in and out, each hour, for each class. And that holding that pressure, that tension, all of that emotional energy can get quite exhausted, especially when the adults haven't been taught how to really lean in and process and understand why they're feeling the way they do, and then to give themselves what they need in order to feel better. 9 times out of 10, it's like we just need physical sleep. We just are physically tired and need sleep. And then the brain clears up and the emotions clear up, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to go back in. Other times there's some mental and emotional work that needs to get done. We're having certain belief systems or thoughts about our students or the spring season, spring fever, and this time of year. Or maybe it's there's a lot of emotional energy going on for kids, and what we need to do is like take some time to break that down. What's coming up for them? Testing creates a lot of anxiety. End of the year, there's a lot of excitement and anticipation. So I want to take a moment to really acknowledge you that you've made it all the way to the release part, right? So, what release will look like and feel like, and examples of what it will look and feel like, it's different for everybody, of course. But what I noticed within myself and what I have observed in the clients that I work with is that the situation isn't always front of mind. You're not constantly consumed by it. You're not feeling as much urge or as often to debate it, to discuss it, to ruminate on it. You're kind of tiring of thinking about it. You're kind of tiring of being mad about it. You're tiring of fighting it. You're tired of wanting to go back and change it. You just don't have the urge like you did in the beginning when you were trying to like hold it together and make everything not break and for it to stay the same. You're not as interested in it. It's starting to feel like it's a little bit in the past. That's how you'll know. You're like dipping your toe into the ocean of release. The other thing you'll start to notice is you'll get more focused on other things. You'll wake up thinking about your future. You'll be thinking about the day. You'll be thinking about, what's going on this week rather than, oh, yeah, that happened. There will be it'll feel like, I think about the weather, like it won't be the dark cloud over your head the minute you wake up. You're like, oh, yeah, that. And it's just like a thunderstorm of thoughts and emotions versus you wake up and it's a bright sunny day. There's a little bit of hope. There's a skip in your step. There's some energy. There's future focused thoughts. You're eager, you're excited, you're enthusiastic, you're anticipating a brighter future, a brighter day. Okay. And this situation, while it still happened to you and it's still in you and a part of you and a part of your experience, a part of your story, it doesn't hold the priority and the weight or the space inside of you that it once did. Now, I want to acknowledge something. Oh, my allergies are bad today. I want to acknowledge that we've been going through this program, right, every couple of days. So, day one, a few days, day two, a couple of days, day three, a couple of days, day four. So, over the course of what, 1 or 2 weeks, like a couple of weeks' time, we have gone through these stages. As you're taking this class in real time, whether you're taking this here live with me right here and you're in the energy of it right now, or you're watching the replays and you're going through it. And the beautiful thing about the replays is that if you're taking this live and it felt too fast, which I would anticipate that it would, you can go back and just what stage do I feel like I'm in? Do I feel like I am still really in the shock of it all? Let me go back and just watch that and just be in that space. Wait, do I feel like I'm moving towards curiosity and exploration? Let me rewatch that. Or if you're watching this for the first time, if you're brand new into the world of the empowered principle and you're watching this and this is the first experience you've ever had, the beautiful thing about these replays is that you can take them at your own pace. You can watch them, you can do one a week, you can do one a month, you can do one every couple of weeks. So they are available for you to pace out for as long as I decide to keep them, public. Eventually, this program, I really feel the power in this program. I have done this work personally. I'm very attached to it. I'm very aligned with it. It it almost felt like this was like downloaded from like a universal truth where you could apply this professionally, personally to any loss you've experienced, to any identity quake. And this work will become a part of my paid programs, my paid group coaching, my one-on-ones. Obviously, any individual who works with me one-on-one will have access to all of my programming and all of the, past and present, future programs that I offer. But while this is available to you as you're watching this live, or as you're this is coming across your feed, or this is coming up, or it just maybe you just got released, after the live event took place, just notice that you can go through this at your own pace. And look, it might feel like it's never going to come, like release will never be available. It's years away. It's like you might feel some discouragement or mistrust of this process, but I really understand that. I doubted so many times that I would never not care. And in full transparency, I've gone through situations in my life where it took me a year, 2 years to go through this because it would come back in waves. I would kind of have some moments of relief and then it would another round of it would come up or something inside of my, professional world or personal world would trigger it and it felt like I was going backwards. So it's like ocean waves where you'll make some progress and then it'll kind of wash you back out to sea and then you'll make some progress. But I tell you this from the bottom of my heart, you will move on. This will become a part of your narrative that's empowerment, that you'll be able to see, oh gosh, now I understand. I can see why I went through that. Not that I loved the experience, I didn't love the pain part, but the knowledge and the wisdom that I've gained, I can now apply that to who I am today. I can apply it to who I'm mentoring, who I'm leading, who I'm teaching, who I'm coaching as a school leader. So you're never going to just forget. Release isn't about forgetting that it ever happened. You don't want to forget that it happened. You want to remember and take the wisdom with you. And you want the memory of this because it anchors in the learning. But I promise you, you will move on. Okay. So just like a breakup, the release of this will happen over time. Your brain will say, this is taking so long. It's so slow. When will this ever happen? Like sometimes you barely notice that you've released it. Like you just wake up one morning and you're a little happier and a little lighter and you look forward to plans and with your friends you're gonna go on a trip or you've got an interview lined up and you're like now thinking about the future and you're super excited and you're like, okay, that was the past and here I am moving forward. Or you've got a great weekend plan, whatever it is. You start to feel a little energized. Maybe you got up and went for a walk, or maybe you took a yoga class, or you went out for coffee with a friend, or went on a date, or whatever it is you're doing, right? But you might just notice one morning is a little lighter, and one evening you notice, like, I didn't think about that all day. Wow. Or like as you're going into bed, you're catch yourself thinking about tomorrow with hope, with desire, with dreams, with momentum. So the release happens when you feel free from the old narrative, free from the victimness of it, the helplessness, the disempowerment, when you are releasing that part of the experience and you start to embrace a new identity, a new future, a new narrative. So, what you're releasing, what you're detaching from the old identity. So there was an attachment, right, to who you were. I was the principal of that school, or I was the, you know, district curriculum director at this district. I identified as this person who had this position. I had this job in, all of the attachment to who I was. And I want to go back to that, right? Just like a breakup. Like I used to be Mr. or Mrs. I used to be that person's partner. I was their wife, their spouse, their husband, you know, their person. And I thought that was going to be my identity forevermore. I thought I was going to be in this position next year. Releasing that. Okay, that's no longer available. Who am I now? A new identity starts to emerge. And then you start to detach from that initial story and all the pain and what happened to you. And, um, if there was blaming or abdicating, like that's all gone now. You're just like, I'm good. We start to release the shoulds. This should have happened. This shouldn't have happened. It should have went down this way. It shouldn't have gone down this way. This person should have been, you know how it goes. All those shoulds, they start to matter less. It's like Not what I hoped for, not the experience I wanted, but it happened. It happened the way it happened. I'm not gonna, it should or shouldn't have done this or that. I'm not doing that to myself anymore. But most importantly, you're detaching from the disempowerment. Remember, we talked about going from victim to victor. You're doing this, you're living it now. So you're releasing. It's like I'm choosing, I'm waking up today and I'm deciding that I'm going to release the urge to justify this situation, to argue it to death, to defend myself over and over again in my mind. What I could have said, what I should have said. Have you ever played that out? Like you think about it and you're like, this is what I should have said. And you get, you like become like the hero in your story. That's okay if it makes you feel good. But eventually you're just going to tire of even wanting to go backwards and explain it all again, defend it all again. Like you're just not going to want to have the fight anymore. It will be done. The fight or flight within you is just no longer activated. So you want to release all that urge, that fight within you. It's not where you want to put your time and effort and energy and your attention, your focus, all of that. You're also releasing the need for those people to like you, for those people to want you, for those people to understand you. You don't need to people please them anymore. You're not being rude or revengeful. It's just, I don't need, this isn't, this is not what I thought it was. I no longer want or need to people please. I don't need them to approve of me, to like me. You know, when, like, let's say you have a friend separation, and in the beginning, it's so painful. You identified as that person's close friend. Maybe you guys, it's super awkward because you're in circles, and then eventually, you just no longer need them to like you, need to spend time with them, or you no longer need to like prove yourself to them. You're good. You have, you're going to go on and be with different people and be with people more aligned to you. And you're going to double down on who you are and who you want to be the best version of yourself. And you'll attract new friends. And then you have this new group of friends. And that person, it's not that you're hating on them anymore. You're just not engaging one way or the other because it's not a part of the story any longer. And you're releasing all these past experiences. We're not labeling the experience as a problem anymore. This isn't the biggest problem on our menu, right? It's not the biggest problem in our life. It's not a fire burning about it anymore. We're just, it's a part of how we became who we are because of this. I'm stronger, wiser, better, more advanced, more empowered. So from this experience, I have been thinking about ownership because it's very uncomfortable. Like we don't want to take ownership because it feels bad if we've been wrong. It feels bad if we have been wronged. And so, how do we own that? And how do we reconcile that? So, I think about a culture of ownership, and I want you to think about a culture of ownership. One, a culture within your personal culture, how you personally operate within yourself, the culture you create around you. So, when you're with family, is there a culture of ownership? Do you take ownership for your interactions with your family? Your words, your demeanor, your attitudes, your behaviors, your, actions, decisions, all of those things. Like, do I have and do when people are around me, do they know that I own me? So taking personal ownership and responsibility for your own experiences is creating a culture of ownership within yourself. Your thoughts, your interpretations, your values, your priorities, your belief systems, your emotional experience, your ability to regulate those emotions. That's hard, isn't it? Your decisions, your behaviors, your approach. Like it really, it's taking on like is as uncomfortable as it feels, and like you got to swallow that pride and you got to let ego have its like bop bop bop, and you still hold steady because you want to own your impact, your outcomes, and your results. And the way that you are going to have this wonderful experience moving forward is complete ownership, creating a culture of ownership within yourself. It's how you personally operate within an external culture. So, right, so there's you, and then there's the culture at your school, the culture of your district. So they may have a culture of how they interact. They might just fire people at will or throw people out without explanation. That might be the way they do decisions, the way they take action. You, however, still have an internal culture where you decide how you're going to interact with others, regardless of what they do, say, think, feel, act, behave, decisions they make. It's how you personally navigate difficult experiences, how you handle different kinds of people, different kinds of places, different kinds of experiences, how you interpret other people, just their words, their actions, their facial expressions, their body language, their behaviors, what they do, what they don't do, what they say, what they don't say. And you also get to have full ownership of who you choose to remain engaged with. So, the hard part of all of being released is in schools, we have, you know, 2 months, sometimes three, where we have a whole season where we still have to show up, but we can still show up in our best, even if they have a different set of expectations and a different culture of ownership for themselves or for the district. So allow yourself to be in your empowerment and let others experience that empowered version of you. Because I want you to think about the impact of that. You show up with your head held high. You've processed all of this. And maybe there's things that trigger you throughout the workday, but you do your best. You give it your all every day with a smile, with positive intent, seeking to understand, still seeking to serve until your last day. I want you to think of the impact of that on others, on that culture. Others observing you. Wow, look at her. Look at how she's handling herself in the face of, social like scrutiny, of embarrassment, of disappointment, all the feels that none of the humans want to feel. And you're feeling it and you're handling it with such grace and such dignity and empowerment and integrity. Think of the impact that leaves, even after you're gone, to be graceful through it, not to be dismissive of your feelings, but you're going to take care of that on your own, or with a coach, or with a therapist, or with a mentor. So just sit in that imagery for a second where you're really imagining yourself for the rest of your days. It's April 29th right now if you're watching this live. So we've got all of May into June, however long your school year goes. And you're imagining this new identity, this empowered identity, even in the face of setback, even in the face of being released, even when your emotions have been disturbed, right? There's an identity cycle that's going to happen. So, my coach, Melanie Ann Lear, whom I love, she has been the greatest impact of any coach. It's hard to say because I've had a lot of coaches, but she's one of my faves. She says this phrase often, and I bring it to heart and I bring it to this work that I do. Leaders are bridges, and bridges are tested. So, if you think of leadership as a bridge, you can put to mind any type of bridge, right? before the bridge is opened to traffic, whether it's, foot traffic or automobile traffic, that bridge gets goes through an extreme amount of testing to test its endurance, its strength, its integrity, its capacity, the weight capacity to hold, its structural design, the engineering that went behind it to ensure that it's capable of holding the weight of all of the people who are going to pass over the bridge in that bridge's lifetime. So, as we're expanding and evolving our identity, we can't just assume that the bridge is strong enough. It can take on thousands of people, thousands of cars. We don't just want to like build it and say, okay, it's open. We want to test it to make sure it holds up in the different kinds of situations. Like, how is it in the cold? How is it in the winter, in the summer? How is it, when the fog comes rolling through in the San Francisco Bay? I'm thinking about all those bridges up there. Like, they have to think about the water, they have to think about the temperature, they have to think about the impact, the fog, all of these things. Crazy. I don't even, the structural design of the earth in those locations and then the way that the bridges are designed, they have to be tested. We can't just assume. We don't want them to assume. So we are bridges. People, we bear weight as leaders, as people cross over in our leadership path. So we can't just assume this new identity is ready to hold up in all situations. Oh, I'm going to decide to be empowered. Okay. You want to embody this new identity? Okay, let's test it. We're going to test this expansion to make sure that it can hold all of the pressure. I call these expansion exams. It's like, okay, I get, I'm stepping into this new identity, stepping back into my empowerment. I'm releasing like these old stories that disempower me and make me feel, terrible about myself and that diminish my efficacy. And I want to empower my efficacy. So the universe is saying, okay, you want to try this? Let's try it. So there will be situations like getting released that apply you and invite you to act, to feel within alignment to who you say you want to be, within integrity. And you'll get tested, you'll get triggers. It's a little exam to see if you're completely able to handle this. So in when you claim that, okay, I want to release this, I want to be free of this, I want to move forward. Most of the time, you can count on some kind of trigger coming in. Like, let's say you're over the summer, let's fast forward a little bit. You're feeling pretty released. You've been going to some interviews and maybe you've landed a new job. Let's say you have the new job, you're feeling really good about yourself and you're downtown and you're out having lunch with one of your friends. And who walks by but the superintendent or the very person who let you go? And you're sitting there having lunch with your friend, and let's say the cabinet of your former district, like they went out for lunch and you guys cross paths and you see them. You're going to feel something, most likely. It's a trigger. And you're going to ask yourself, like, okay, what's coming up for me? Just being around them makes me feel a little anxious, makes me feel pretty angry. Okay. Am I going to let this ruin my lunch? Am I going to start perseverating on this? Am I going to go backwards? Who do I want to be in this moment? I might say to my friend, wow, whoo, that really triggered me. I'm so glad I'm here with you. I'm so grateful that we're out having lunch. I'm celebrating my new job. And while I feel this like physical reaction in my body, I know I'm okay. I know I'm safe. I'm no longer afraid. They can't hurt me anymore. And I'd rather focus on you and this day and this lunch and create a great memory here than to let this consume me. Thank you for letting me share that. I really needed to test that, right? The situation's testing. It's testing for cracks. It's testing for, weight capacity, any hidden areas of attachment. Or do you, that lunch and the rest of the thing, like your friends talking, but you're thinking about them and now you're spinning out and you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so not present right now. This just really took me, by surprise. I can't let it go. And then you go home and you're like thinking about it all over again. Not quite ready. Okay, well, it's not like you're going to get an F on empowerment. You're not getting a letter grade. It's that it's an awareness. Okay, this still is triggering me. Let me go back and clean up some of those areas. Let me tighten, let me strengthen. They're designed to stimulate awareness and alignment for you. That's what the expansion exams are all about. It's simply to strengthen you. So don't take them as further setbacks and now you've got to start all over and grieve all over. It's not that. They're just little, it's like when you're just doing like milestone checks with your students, just a little pre-assessment, post-assessment, just little assessments, little check-ins. Okay, it's like I speak education talks. So I'm like, it's like a spiral review. It's just reminding you of who you are and what you want to do. And when you feel the triggers, you go in and check on them and then remind yourself and stay aligned to the empowerment. You're going to be tested at every level. The next job, there's going to be something there too. So at all levels of your expansion and your growth and development as a human and as a professional, you're going to have moments of expansions, moments of release, moments of triggers. It feels like it's the same thing over and over, but it's not. It's like a new grade level, right? It's upgraded assessments. It's like if you're, I don't know, let's say your ninth graders, they take a test in language arts, they take a test in math, and then in 10th grade, your sophomores say like, wait, you tested us on math last year. Why are we doing this again? Why do we take these state tests every single year? What's the point? Up level test. You're not testing the same things. You're testing multiplication, but at a more complicated level, at a higher level. You're testing, more abstract, more difficult, more challenging concepts. That's what this is. It's just new understandings, new skills, new mindset, new identity. Okay. So this is my favorite part. And this is what I love about release. This is where being released, releasing yourself, and truly releasing the attachments and all of the struggle. This is where it has the biggest impact. You can personally go from your culture of ownership as a party of one and start to influence the entire institution of education, the culture at a school, the culture of a district. And that ripple effect can then go think about if a culture of a school starts to change and it impacts the culture of the district, or the district starts to change their culture and that influences the schools. You can work collaboratively on that. But then those people who work in that district, they start to talk to their teacher friends who are in a different district and the principal friends in a different district. And the superintendents go and they have their little, conferences and they talk and they tell their stories. Now people are like, wait, what's going on at that district? It starts to have a ripple effect. So the culture of ownership, while you might think it's just a party of one and it's just little old you doing it, the institution itself can be influenced by a culture of ownership. Can you imagine? For every school leader and educator in the system, there's millions of us out there who believe in and practice and prioritize the culture of ownership for ourselves, for every individual that practices a culture of ownership for themselves. Imagine that. Imagine the majority of people in a school practicing culture of ownership for themselves and how that impacts the school culture. And now imagine that at all the different schools, individuals taking ownership. Imagine the district. If they start to practice culture of ownership, now you've got school culture changing, you've got district culture changing. People are going to start to pay attention. Parents are going to wonder. The community's going to wonder. And I'll tell you something, like for years, I really thought that the top-down approach was it. I thought the institution of education molded the culture of the school in my experience. Well, that's just the way it is. The top down, you know, whatever the higher ups were saying, that became the experience. I really believe that. And I think it can be true if we blindly accept those narratives that top down is the only way. That what the whoever, the powers that be, because they say so, because they decided, because they implemented, therefore this has to be our experience. So it can feel true if you believe that the power comes from the top down and there's no empowerment back up. But what I've learned through my own experiences and through the last 8 years of coaching school leaders out there across the country in different countries is that true culture can be created from within. We are in charge of our experience. We decide, we control. Because the truth is that culture actually impacts the institution. What the people internally decide to believe, decide to buy into, decide what to do, decide what not to do, the institution becomes shaped by the culture of the people. And the people determine the shifts that occur. And institutions actually know this. That's why they focus their efforts on influencing a culture. Because once culture is created, it just has a mind of its own. It has an energy of its own. The culture has more influence. Let me give you an example. I have two examples, and I just want to share both of them. Okay. What comes to me first in mind is mobile phones, right? We used to all, if you are my age or anywhere near my age, you talked on a phone that had a very long cord in your house. And the slim phone came out, I think it was in the 70s, and we had the longest cord between the phone attached to the wall and the receiver where we spoke to our friends for hours on end. And we would move the cord and hide in the closet or hide somewhere so we could be on the phone longer than we were supposed to be. It wasn't mobile. We could not speak from anywhere, let alone text anybody. So Motorola comes out with the brick-shaped phone, I think back in the like late 70s, early 80s. But that was invented. Like the idea came and the industry developed this mobile phone. So there was a concept. Why? Because culture wanted to be on the move. Culture was changing. People were more mobile. They were traveling more. Business, men and women were going, flying about, and they needed to have access. They couldn't go to a payphone all the time. There was a need. The culture was changing. Travel was changing. Business was changing. People needed to be able to have conversations on the go. Motorola develops it because the culture demands it, that there's a need. And, they came out with that first it was like a mobile phone that was like plugged into the car, I think. And then they had a mobile phone that was actually like a cellular phone, but it was still this big brick. Then they came out with the flip phone. And then other companies started following, right? Nokia, Samsung, Apple. And when Apple got in the business of cellular phones, Apple created a culture around phones. They knew that culture transformed industry. It was no longer about if you had a cell phone, because The culture demanded cell phones. We, the people, wanted mobile devices. But Apple came in and said, look, it's not just about what self having a cell phone, it's about what cell phone you have. It's about the cell phone that you have. And they created a culture. It's exclusive, they're expensive, they're sleek, they're simple, they are connected, all the devices connect. They have secret functions, like there's always something new and just to discover about your phone. And everyone's anticipating the new announcements, and people are going and buying phones, not because they need them, just because they want them, they desire them. It's part of the culture. It's an identity to have an Apple product for those people who love Apple. And what's so great about Apple is like people either love them or hate them. They love my sister can't tend to anything Apple. She's all, I don't know what it's called, like the not Apple products, right? The Androids, right? She tried an Apple, can't stand it, doesn't want an Apple computer. She's like, she's all PC and she's all Android all the way. That's okay. That's the culture she chooses. There's different cultures within the industry, but when there's a culture around the product, people are they become fans, right? Now I think about another industry, the music industry. Individual people, hear me out. Individual people influenced the culture of music. Like when you think about when Elvis Presley came into the scene, he changed the entire culture around music with his hips a swaying and shaking and, twist and shouting, whatever he was doing, right? And then the Beatles came in, Beatlemania, four men from another country, the British invasion, right? They impacted the culture. Then, Queen. I mean, I love music. I could go on, but I think about the hair band era. Like Van Halen came in and was just ripping it. And that was like a whole cultural shift. Dr. Dre came in, like tons of rap artists who came in and it made rap mainstream and really put it on the map of music, changed the culture. Individuals influence cultures and create new cultures within the industry. And then I think about Taylor Swift. Like, talk about shifting the industry. She didn't just come up as another pop female artist. She shifted the entire culture, the entire industry, right? With her, like really connecting with her fans at a very authentic level. The friendship bracelets, she visiting the fans, being all about the fans, surprising people at their wedding, going to the hospital, like showing up at people's bridal parties or, bachelorettes or she's done it all. Leaving all these little hints and clues, they call them Easter eggs. But then she had a huge setback. In a way, she went through a severe release when her original music was purchased out from under her, and she fought and fought and fought. And legally, they figured out a way to make it impossible for her to get them back. Or was it? What did she do? She did not let it stop that. She did not let that setback stop her. She figured out a way to stay in her empowerment, stay in her integrity, to act on what she valued. And she re-recorded all of her own music. Like, entire industry shift, cultural shift. Records all of her own music, re-records it, Taylor's version, and then she goes out and sets the goal of making enough money on the Eras tour to purchase back those originals, which she accomplished. She achieved that. Entire industry shift. So in our industry, and I call it the institution because education is just, it feels like like a physical institution within our communities, within our nation, within our world. There are many different cultures, right? We have different cultures of leadership, even within one district. There are different cultures of communication within one district, within one school, right? Some are cultures of compliance. Other are cultures of exploration and experimentation, project-based learning, more traditional based learning. There's cultures of high accountability, high standards, high accountability. There's high accountability, low support, the high level of accountability, low level of support, high level of accountability, high support, and everywhere in between. Low support, low accountability. You got it. There's different cultures around accountability, around standards, different cultures within our schools around connection, relationship building, like humanity. So, different approaches and different styles is what creates the culture. And where people come into play here is they either acclimate to the behaviors and the expectations of that culture, or they honor their individual culture of ownership. So we create individual cultures in this release process. So part of what you're going to do, what I invite you to do, you don't have to do it, but what I'm inviting you to do is to decide on the individual culture you would like to create. You could call it a brand, your individual brand. How you're going to dress, how you're going to speak to people, how you're going to interact, your facial and body expressions, practicing those. I know sometimes they're like, feels like they're not within our control, but we can practice them. You don't have to have perfection here, but you can create a culture of how you're showing up, what you surround yourself with, what you consume, what you read, what you listen to. It creates a brand, a culture of who you are. And then you can use that culture, that individual culture, to build this new identity. This is who I am now. When you're going through the release process, I've watched myself how my individual culture has evolved. I had a certain way, a certain style. Then the identity quake hits, and now it's like can barely get out of bed, barely get dressed, barely brush your teeth. You're wearing the same yoga pants, not showering quite as much, right? Like that is part of the process. And eventually you realize I feel good when I get up and shower and when I dress, when I look the part. You don't want to be depressed and coming to work in like your jeans or your sweatpants or whatever your, standards are, but you want to feel good. You can be in a great pair of jeans with a cute outfit, blazer or jacket or wear dresses or whatever feels good for you. There's no wrong answer here. But you know the difference in your energy when you're wearing your Saturday sweatpants that you've owned for the last 15 years and when you are in your tailored slacks, cute blouse, hair, you got your hair done. You know the difference in energy. We can work on that. We can show up. And if the better you feel, the easier it is, I think, to then emote that energy to present yourself as empowered. So how do we handle like people can be thinking about us at work, but we get in there and we do the work. We get in there and we support our teachers. We get in there and, help with the teacher appreciation week and the volunteer tea. We get back into what matters most. We live through example. We align to the culture of ownership that we decide to take. And that's why this work matters so much. It's because it's so all inclusive about who we are, how we feel, how we show up, how we behave, how we continue to serve. From the little things like what we wear to what we talk about, to who we engage with, to how we serve, the energy we put into this, to know what you love, to know who you want to be and why. It guides your alignment. I want to just point out something. I think about Taylor Swift. I think about any new artist who, and I think about the people who worked at Apple, how scared to death they were when they're creating this. They don't know that Apple's going to become the hottest phone on the market. What the iPhone is going to be, all that. They don't know that. When they released the iPad, I was like, why would you, if you have an iMac and you have an iPhone, why do you need an iPad? What the iPad's never gonna, it doesn't do anything. And I actually don't even have an iPad. I bought two iPads trying to love them. I go back to these two things. That's just me. But obviously, iPad is a big freaking deal now, right? But they had to take those risks. Taylor Swift took huge risks, continues to take risks. And the risk is she's got haters. A lot of people love to hate on Taylor Swift all day, every day. People love to hate on Apple. They love to hate on Steve Jobs or they love to hate on the company, whatever. When we are creating our own culture, an evolved culture, like there's what's expected, like the traditional, what we know, what has been, because it's always been, especially in education. We do things because that's how it's been done, like grade levels and testing and bell schedules and, certain schedule, certain year-long schedules. We play with it a little bit, right? Modified year. We might play with bell schedules. We might play with grade levels. But like generally speaking, we kind of all sit in a class and do the thing versus like something like complete overhaul, complete culture shift. So there's the old and the updated. And when we're doing this, there will be some pushback. There will be some distaste, dislike. People, we have to be willing to face the scrutiny of influencing a new kind of culture. So you showing up and like leaning all into your job these last 2 months while you're also interviewing, while you're also grieving, just doing that. And you're not going to be 100%, 100% of the time, but maybe you are. And you're going to go feel your emotions and then you're going to shower and dress up and look your best and go and serve your best and then go and nail that interview and then be with your kids or be with your friends and be with your partner. And then you're going to do it all over the next day. But there will be people who don't like it. They want you to hurt. They want you to be sad. They're expecting you to be disgruntled. And when you're not, they might be like, what? Like, what is she on her high horse? People will not like the new culture you're creating, the new culture that you're offering and that you're presenting. It will be offensive to some of them. Why? Because it makes them reflect on themselves. How would I have handled myself if I had been? Well, I would have told them, I would have showed them. Yeah, that's why you're uncomfortable because I'm aiming to rise above retaliation and resentment, and I'm releasing that old culture, which is to be mad and be disgruntled and just or give up and give in, not care, not show up. And that old culture is not going to like the new culture that you're creating, that you're coming in with, especially if there was any animosity in the release from on their end. They're going to want you to be upset that you're releasing them. But when you're not, when you're just moving on, when you're still serving, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel scary for them. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be what Martha Beck calls change back attacks. I learned that in my first round of coaching certification, where people will attack you to try and have you go back to being the old identity. So, um, I'm trying to think of an example. Okay, let's say you like used to drink wine and now you've decided like I'm going to cut back, I'm not going to drink wine. Or maybe I'm not going to drink at all or maybe I'm not going to go, all crazy. I'm identifying differently. I'm going to be a person who no longer drinks, let's say. And your drinking friends are like, but let's have wine. It's Friday. Let's go do the thing. Let's go celebrate. Let's go enjoy. How could you not? Like, they're going to want you to go back to the version of you that you were because they liked that version of you. They liked that identity. And when you, or maybe it's not even wine. Maybe it's you go to the gym and work out, start working out, and now you're taking walks versus going to happy hour. And they're like, what? You're like, oh, I still love a good glass of wine, but after my walk. And I drink one wine versus, or one glass versus two glasses now. I just limit it to one. Or I only, whatever. It's people will not, there are people who are not going to like you attaching to a new identity. They're going to want you to go back to the old identity. But let me tell you this, your identity and this culture of ownership as part of your identity, it's your professional brand. Your identity is how people identify you. It's how you identify you. So whether you're at this school or as you move forward in your professional journey, even when you've been released, you can still be an empowered principal. You can still be a person of high influence and impact, even when they weren't professional, even when they weren't nice to you, even when they weren't honest or transparent about the process, even when things didn't go the way you thought they should. You can still choose to act in alignment and still move yourself forward. It's about focusing on where you're going, not where you've been. So you've heard Mel Robbins say this, let them be wrong about you. My, one of my coach, Brooke Castillo, she just got married, Brooke Hicks, excuse me. Brooke Hicks from the Life Coach School, when I got certified back in 2015, she said, one of the things you're going to have to do, whether you're an entrepreneur and a coach, which I am now, but back then I was a principal, a site principal. I wasn't at the district yet. She said, you're going to have to let people be wrong about you. You're going to have to allow the feelings that come up with somebody being wrong about you and allow that and hold space for it. Like the bridge, I had to be tested. I had to let parents be wrong. I had to let teachers make assumptions that were not true about me. I had to let them think things that I knew weren't true. But instead of constantly trying to argue and defend, explain myself, I had to just let it go, release it. And I think about celebrities. The more in the public you are, the greater capacity, the bigger the bridge, the more you get tested, right? Celebrities have to do this all the time. They know they're inaccurate stories out in the, Globe or whatever these papers, Us Weekly or the National Enquirer. Like they know there's like inaccurate stories all over the internet about them. They know this, but they can't spend their entire lives like looking for the stories and trying to find what people are saying and then trying to defend it and taking people to court. What are you going to sue everybody? They can't, they don't want to spend their lives doing that. They want to spend their lives doing what they love to do, whether that's acting or singing or being an artist or being an author, being a musician, whatever, screenplay, whatever, all of it. All the celebrities doing all their things. The reason they're celebrities is because of what they love to do and they do that so well versus they're chasing around people, telling people not to say things that are inaccurate about them. They let them be wrong. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It still stings. These people are human. They've just grown their capacity to handle the weight of people being wrong about them. They let people be wrong. And when they strengthen that, it can sting sometimes, especially if like it's cruel. But if it's inaccurate, you can coach yourself like as cruel as that was, it's wrong. And there may be times where legal stuff and defamation of character and all of that gets in the way. I'm not talking about that level. And you can decide for yourself if it's getting into a space where there's some legal repercussions. But the little stuff, the actors laugh at. They read about things that people say about them and they can laugh about it because they know themselves. They know the truth of who they are and what they did or didn't do. It's just, we're going to have to let people be wrong about us. And that includes people close to you. That might include family members who have opinions about why you got released. Your parents, your siblings, your aunties, uncles, your grandparents, whomever. There might be people in your life who just love to dig in and, you know, say, talk about you or assume or give you advice. Okay, you know the truth. You've done this work. You have access to these tools, these strategies, this process. Let them. And if it's hard to let them, that's time to explore why. Why does it feel hard to release their comments, their opinions, their perspective? Because what happens with celebrities, people who are really strong, and there's people who crumble under the pressure. There are people who crumble under the scrutiny and the falsehoods and all of that. But the people who are successful, it's because they're more focused on who they are and who they're becoming and where they're headed than all the chatter. So, as you're building your strength as a bridge, as a leader, you're going to apply this process over and over. And if you found this helpful, if you found this insightful, you're going to be very interested in the next program that's coming up in May. It's called Hired. It's about landing your ideal position in school leadership, about landing the position that's meant for you. We tried this one, you gave it your best. You learned from it, you grew from it, and now we've got to move forward. You probably want a job, or you need a job, or both. I want and need a job. I desire one. I desire to get hired. But you probably have some blocks, some limiting beliefs that are coming up through this process of release. So the next step is to move forward in your situation with the greater wisdom and the strength that you're developing. And let's keep your eye on the prize. Let's create some closure, some release, and now focus on momentum. That's what Hired is going to be about. We're going to focus on your future, not your past. So, Hired is going to start on May 12th. We're going to focus on landing the job. We're going to talk about the intentions, we're going to talk about the energetics. It's the mindset plus the skills of interviewing. It's both. It's who you have to be mentally, emotionally, energetically, the skills that you're going to need, that you're going to want to develop, but it's the energetics that really attracts that job offer to you. And the combination of all of this, what we're going to discuss in May, is what creates that magnetic chemistry in the interview process because you're building a rapport, right? We're going to talk about getting back in the game, getting hired. We're going to align to your priorities and your values. We're going to and be able to articulate yourself authentically. So, we're starting May 12th. This is a paid program. Hired is a paid program. This masterclass was free because I'll tell you why. I know the pain and I want to help every single person who gains awareness of this program to have access to it so that they can clear their mind enough to get themselves in a position to get hired. So Hired cost $222 when you register by May 5th. So the program starts May 12th. If you register by May 5th, the price is $222. The price will go up on May 6th. So register before May 5th, $222. The price will go up May 6th. And I've decided to add some value to this program Hired. So it's going to include a private individual session with me so that we can focus on your individual situation, any obstacles or mindset, limiting beliefs that you're still working on processing or any emotions you're still working through in this release program and through the process of this. And you don't have to be perfectly healed to go out and start getting hired. And in fact, taking this action, even when you're not fully healed, is going to start giving you something to focus on and something to put your energy towards. And you might feel that release happens faster when you jump into this program called Hired, and then we move you forward into landing that job. So you will also receive a private coaching session with me to work through whatever blocks are coming up, or if you have like very specific questions that you want. So I'm going to send the link. I'm going to drop the link to Hired in the email. Like if you're a registrant, if you register for this program, you're going to get the day 5 of the replay link and the workbook, because there's a workbook with each of these, as you know. And then I will also drop the link to Hired in the public Facebook group, the Empowered Principal Facebook group. So you can access it there. You can access it if you've registered. If you're watching this, if somebody has shared this with you and you're not on my email list and you want to get on the email list, go into Facebook, join that group. Or you can email me if you don't do Facebook. That's okay. You can email me at angelakellycoaching@gmail.com. Simple as that. As we close this out, I want to thank you again for your time, your attention to yourself, to healing, to committing to going through the process of releasing this experience and to leveraging it as the most empowered opportunity yet, that it's happening for you. And because of this, we're going to walk straight into getting hired. Have a beautiful week. May you be healed. May you release this negativity, any painful experience you're having, and use it as an opportunity to expand your empowerment and just strengthen you. Be well. I look forward to seeing you at the next program. We'll see you at Hired. Take excellent care. Bye.